I'll just give a sentence brief about each speaker. The first speaker for the day is Ms. Shoba Mohan. She is the founding partner of Rare India, a marketing company specializing in destinations and concepts related to hospitality and tourism. The second speaker, Mr. S. Swaminathan, is the managing director of Dravidian Trades Holidays Private Limited, a specialized tour operator who handles only foreign nationals visiting exclusively Kerala and South India. The third speaker, Mr. Ranjit Matthew, is the managing director of Natika Beach Ayurvedic Resort and Coconut Bay Beach Resort. The fourth speaker, Mr. V.K. Varghese, founder and managing director of VKV Caterers, is a leading food, banquet and catering company based in Kerala. The fifth speaker, Ms. Niba Nambudiri, she is the trustee and projects coordinator of Society for Elephant Welfare and has been working for the welfare of captive elephants in an independent capacity. Finally, we have Mr. Gopinath Parai, founder and chief executive of Blue Yonder, a company, a responsible tourism company. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now I invite the first speaker of the session, Ms. Shoba Mohan, to be on the dais. And also I request the moderator, Engineer Andamani sir, to introduce of the speaker.
The first speaker, Ms. Shoba Mohan, is the founder partner at Rare India, a leading marketing company specializing in destinations and concepts related to hospitality and tourism. In 2004, when the bug of entrepreneurship struck, Shoba founded Rare. Today, Rare has taken art, fairs, festivals, music, wildlife conservation, heritage walks, vintage car rally, voluntary tourism to the travel, trade and beyond, to promote it as a concept for experimental special interest travel. Shoba Mohan's interest and evolution run parallel to that of Rare, which has evolved as a company that handpicks singular experiences and destinations across the world. Shoba is a graduate in zoology and pursued a post-graduation in journalism and mass communication with the intention of concentrating on science journalism. Welcome to you, madam.
Good afternoon, gentlemen, and the very few ladies who are here. Thank you for taking this time out. It's a pleasure to come all the way from Delhi to speak. I must tell you one thing that's common between Kerala, where I'm sitting here, and Delhi. The temperature is the same. It's very, very cold in here, gentlemen. So, how many tour operators in the audience? Tour operators? Okay. How many hoteliers? All right. How many travelers? All right. All right. So Rare was actually made for travelers, right? Tour operators and hoteliers came in next. It was actually started, the core of Rare was about reaching out to travelers who wanted to do more than just pick up their car and go to, just any hotel. That was actually the core of Rare, which is why I call them the world traveler. So this is when it all began, 1998. I've been hearing a lot of sessions about being inspired and things like that. I don't have a big bang theory of how I started it. It just started on a whim that, on what I believed in. I didn't like to stay in big 5-star hotels. I went to people's homes, they welcomed me. I took a bus to some little cottage in the Kumau Hills and things like that. And I thought, well, this is a great way to stay. I mean, it's a great place to stay. And that's how we began in 1998. Rare was actually formalized much later in 2004. And like Anandan pointed out, it's rather been my own journey. As I journeyed on, as I met more and more people, it just became I learned what conservation was, and it's very interesting for me that agriculture should come just before tourism. I think somebody married this very well, because agriculture, and in fact a lot of what they were talking about makes sense to what actually Rare started off, tried to incorporate into tourism concepts. Whether it was agri-farming or trying to grow new things or trying to sustain old, old grains or something like that, it all became a part of the concept that Rare was all about. So when we began in 1998, here's how the tourism industry looked. There might be veterans here, but how it looked to me was this. Everybody asked you what star, how many rooms, attached bathrooms. So this is what they asked you. How far from the airport? Who's the general manager? This is the kind of questions they asked you, and it was then 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. This was the usual thing that went on. But I also noticed that there were people who said, this particular hotel, that particular person smiled. He remembered what I wanted. Last time I asked for upma, and I come back 2 years later and he says, sir, you liked upma? We have the same upma on the buffet today. So that is something I noticed. So it brought me back to the sense that hospitality is about people. It was not about bricks, it was not about mortar. It was about people, it was about connecting with people. So when we set about trying to, when the first hotel came on board Rare, it was a property that was owned by an artist. He was a fashion photographer in the jungles of central India. He had tents, everybody had cottages, he had tents. Everybody was in about 3 acres of space, he was in 40 acres of space. Everybody was talking about 20 rooms. He said, I'm going to have 9 tents in about 40 acres. Everybody said, what is the safety factor here? He said, I have no fence. I want the wild boars to walk in. So this was the concept that we began with. That was the first hotel that came on board Rare in 2004 actually. And thereafter, everything that added on to the Rare list was organic. I must say I didn't do much. I just sat there and I said, would you like to join the Rare list? People said, we heard about you. And believe me, you have to be a little crazy to build something which is not close to Jaipur, which is not on the way to anywhere, which is far away from every place, and you want to price it at 40,000 rupees, and you have just 5 rooms, and yet you want to make a business of it. And this is what happened. So the next property that came on board was a property called Chhatrasagar. Chhatrasagar was in the middle of nowhere. It was a water conservation project. He had 11 tents. He had 13 tents actually. He had no air conditioning. He wouldn't give air conditioning. He opened in the month of October. He would shut in the month of March. And he wanted a great price because he and his entire family were your hospitality partners. They looked after you. They cooked. Food came from the family kitchen. For activity, all you did was go in and look into rural Rajasthan, which now if you look at it is slowly dying away. There is no more villages around Jodhpur. To see an authentic village outside Jodhpur, you actually have to drive out to about 80 kilometers, right? So this is how concepts took shape. Then we had another maverick who said, listen, I have about 60 acres in the jungles of central India, and I want to price it at $600. And my USP will be that is she, called the Tiger Princess, will be your host. So go ahead and promote it. So these were the kind of concepts that came on board. Interestingly, the industry slowly started moving away from your cookie cutter hotels. So when we actually used to begin and we started marketing, and Rare actually specializes in offline marketing. We actually go out to the market and tell stories. We take your story, the hotelier's story, and we go and convey it to the partners, to the tour operators. So when we actually started that, people would say, tents, oh, but my clients won't stay in tents. Americans won't stay in tents, you know that? But this is too far away from the airport. These were the kind of feedback we used to get. Even simultaneously as this was happening, Kerala was actually having a boom. In fact, a lot of hoteliers from Kerala used to come and tell me, why don't you market us? But marketing small hotels has a bit of a rider. Small hoteliers with 4 rooms to 6 rooms, they have a little bit of a challenge. They don't have budgets. And if you think they're going to be making a lot of money, they actually don't make a lot of money. There is no money to be earned here. The fact is that they sustain it. And I heard a lot of passion going on in all these sessions, and that's the core of it. They do this because they are passionate about whatever they are doing. So it could be a conservation project. It could be a farm that they are sustaining. It could be a family building that they have owned and they would like to keep it just the way it is. Or it could be an elephant they are protecting. It could be the other side of the forest. It could be Goa, which is the other part of Goa. I mean, the beaches of Goa have been done to death, and we're looking at the other part of Goa. So all this kind of became the core of the RARE philosophy. Anything that does not typically adhere to your cookie cutter models of hospitality became a part of it. It is very difficult, mind you. And we were working with some very seriously crazy people, because anybody who wanted to do business would probably open a hotel in Cochin and price it at about 9,000 rupees, make feasibility reports, and well, he's on his way to doing great business. But we didn't have anybody like that on board. So even today, RARE has got about, we have 50 hotels on board. And each hotel is a story. And our job as a marketing specialist is to take the story out. Yes, times are challenging. When we started in 2004, we were probably the pioneers in that particular business. And today there are about 37 representation companies. So what did we continue to look for small hotels, or the small hotels continue to seek us, and we have the support of hoteliers, tour operators to promote them and take their stories further and further. Thank you so much. If there's any questions, I'm willing to take. I hope I'm well in time.
We'll have a Q&A session at the end.
Okay, fine.
Thank you so much for sharing your precious information. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, ladies.
Brand. Dravidian Trades is a recipient of National Tourism Award by Government of India, consequently for the period 2013-14 and 2014-15. Swaminathan is a democratically elected managing committee member of Kerala Travel Mart for the past 10 years, and he was the chairman of the accommodation committee of Kerala Travel Mart 2016. Swami was one of the youngest secretaries of SCAR International Cochin, an international organization associated with tourism related activities, and then he went on to become the president for the period 2008-10. Swami lives by the principle of Manava Seva is Madhava Seva. Serving fellow men is serving God. Over to you.
Okay, good afternoon everybody. Before I move on to my presentation of the new wave in the tourism and hospitality, I would like to thank TiE for having me here. Well, what I have done for this kind of presentation, of course I was given a mail, it was 15 minutes, so if I exit 2-3 minutes, please excuse me. I'm going to tell you what is the new wave which is happening in tourism, then what kind of a wave this has created, what is going to change which is happening, then what are the opportunities for an entrepreneur, then finally a small little about the experience I'm doing or experiencing as an entrepreneur. So this is what I'm going to go through. Okay, the new wave is planning and holiday. I'm sure most of you will be surprised, especially for the people below my generations, because there's nothing called planning and holiday was there. Because as simple as that, I always tell my family, people ask where you went, my parents took me here. But now today, there's something called planning of a holiday. In India, which is happening, in abroad it was already there, but large people in India also doing. There were people, but now they are doing more. I'll then connect you to the next slide about what is I mean about further of planning holiday. Then customer product knowledge. Well, this is a very good thing, customer knows the knowledge, but it's also weakness for a tour operator. But nevertheless, you have to respect the society, you go with this. Decision makers, I'm sure today, we always tell, we don't want to pamper our children when we send to them. We try to be hard with them. After 1 hour, they don't come to us, we go to them and say, do what you want. Now, accessibility, because of so much new wave, the accessibility has created. Then also, like as you said, you plan on holiday, you discuss with your family, children gives you influence, you know where to go, then you book your holiday sitting in front of your computer. This is the main thing. And there's other sector also which is coming up, which is of course wellness and medical tourism, which is catching up much longer faster in India. When these things happens, there's something, there is always people who will always look something rare, let's say like Shoba said, So there's always people who look for something different. So those kind of people are also there. Okay, why you plan on holiday? Now we have a disposable income. Either you would have inherited from his parents because now the boom in real estate, or you would have himself has become a person who is earning much better. And also there's a need to take an holiday is picking up in India. Technology, because a customer can always see, or a traveler or a guide, he can always see where he wants to go, what's happening. That's why this technology is playing a major role. He is aware of, he is asking. When I say decision of young people, like for just to share, I am myself is a tour operator. I was going to Mysore last week. When I want to make a stop in Bandipur, all booked. My son says the trip advisor rates him only 4 point out of 10. So that's what this is happening. Then accessibility, yes, new airline has come, and the online, that's why the reason you sit and book it. Wellness, which is, to be very honest, the next speaker, Mr. Ranjit is here. They ran an Ayurveda resort. Many people like him has taken Ayurveda to different parts of the world. They are very famous in Germany. And of course now within India things are catching up, and yoga is really catching up. When I say medical tourism, yes, is it a question whether our own medicines is becoming expensive because it is very cheap in India? That's a different story. But in reality, international standard of hospitals are much more. Now more of the new younger generations want to do something different. That's why you have this, Royal Enfield tours, bicycle tours, camping. So these are the different set of new ways which is coming in tourism. Now because of this new way, you have a lot of new entrants. One is of course online companies, and it gives you a possibility to book. There are names I've lifted. Airlines have come new, which is available. So you have to book online, you travel, then you need to stay, so hotels coming up. And then because of the boom in India, I'm more interested in the point number last. Okay, so because of boom in India, there are a lot of people looking for investment to do in an Indian company. So we already had. That's what if you see Sita and Koni, that was a company which is one of the #1 company in India, which a Swiss company took over. And then also you have TUI, which is one of the greatest brand in Germany, which is taking over LPGI. Thomas Cook from the globe has come. So the many takers are coming, and few more investors will be there. I strongly believe in that. Okay, when you say this portion, there's always a segment, there's always people look for something different. So large travelers will continue to be there, they will go on and on. But there are people who give value to the commitment given to the society. So those kind of people is what now you call it as responsible tourism. And I'm sure Gopi will share more about, I don't think I can say Mr. Gopinath, but nevertheless Mr. Gopi will try to say more about this. But I mean there is a kind of segment where the people, responsible tourism is really need of the hour is increasing. They want to stay in the resort, which is benefiting the local society. What you take back, you are giving back. If you have such a commitment, then please note these people who is concerned with responsible tourism are willing to pay you more money. It may be you don't report, but although you report to everybody. Work-life balance, better recognition. I would have been asked to come here as the so-and-so company's representative, then I would have been happy, and I have to perform well, and I have to answer back to my team what has happened. But today it is Swami who has been invited here. I think it's a privilege to be here. So that's the recognition you get it. The strength of yours is you make your own destiny. Nobody is responsible. Now the question of risk. Risk actually, one more minute. Risk actually, I would say, there is no risk today. 1 month before, you heard that chairman of the topmost company has been terminated. So 30 years before it was a risk because my salary was only some 600, 500. Even if I lose the job, I will not get for 600. I have to go for 300. Today your job is insecure any time. So it's easy to become an entrepreneur today. Because if you lose it, it's quite easier to become. And the second point why I say is, to be very honest, if you are a good, sincere employee, I joke to my team, now this portion, if we don't grow, Dravidian Trails is saturated. If I go and join somewhere, I'll be paid 200% more than this. My colleagues immediately say, sir, why can't you go? That's what happens. That's what I said, you report to everybody. So when I talk to my team, what is profit? Maybe I would have been continued in the Pony or some other company. Financial needs, yes. If you ask me now, I think I am worth 1,000 times more than what I am today. I have potential, but I have weakness of finance because I come from a middle class family. But where you gain yourself, you have a sense of belonging of you have created something. At least I have created this. That's what I said, the global investors are coming. So I have created till my retirement my salary. That's achieved. Now the next level is the more profit. But doing all those things, you need to have a satisfaction of what you do. That's the last line, my friend. Yeah, that's the last line. Thank you. You have to be, sorry, I'm extremely sorry for taking extra. Honest and sincere you need, because passion always takes a little out of the way. You have to correct it. Honest and sincerity, no compromise on any time. You have to be. When you are honest and sincere, what happens? People trust you and they give you money. Because money is also most important, that someone is putting money on you. So because of this development, and also please, this habit I have now cultivated 0.1%. Listening to others. If I listened to him, I would have gone back to my seat. So I don't do that. Follow up very closely dynamics of the market, because without market dynamics you cannot succeed. Because you must know what are you doing. Otherwise it's overrated and everything. Innovative, anything you do which is different is innovative. It's not a innovation, career opportunity, growth. These are jadus here. Just do what you like. Be content in life. Because if you are not happy of what you are doing, you can never succeed. Take one step at a time. Arrogance will come to you because you think you are the boss. It will come to you. So you have to be humble all the time. And end of the day, if you don't sleep when you go to bed 10 minutes, you succeed nothing in your life. If you don't take care of your family well, you don't take care of your colleagues, you don't commit to your environment, you don't take care of people around you, there's no point in being entrepreneur. That doesn't mean you have to give, like, I'm not going to give crores of rupees. Like my colleague has given 1,000 rupee, 100 rupee notes to a team and next to his home. I think if he deserved 1,100 from the company he was paid. 100 rupees ex gratia was paid to him. That's what we can do at the moment. What I mean, that is what I'm saying, being different in people. That's it. Thank you very much.
For Mr. Ranjit, Ayurvedic tourism is not just a business but a passion. Over to you, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen, when Sri Jose Dominic called a few weeks ago to invite me to participate in the TiE seminar, I felt truly honored to accept the invitation. It is indeed my pleasure and privilege to speak today. Let me begin by saying that as stakeholders in Kerala's tourism sector, many have always drawn inspiration from the excellent concepts of the CTH Earth Group. In today's discussion, I would like to combine the TiE theme of 2016, building a great entrepreneurial ecosystem, with the topic of tourism and hospitality, the new wave. And I will attempt to examine this topic with relevance to Kerala tourism. If we examine the figures of foreign tourist arrivals in Kerala, you will find that Kerala received a total of 9.2 lakh foreign guests in 2014 and 9.7 lakh visitors in 2015. The increase in growth is not very significant. It is also obvious from the figures that a kind of stagnation has set in. Kerala, with all its natural assets like beaches, backwaters and mountains, can definitely do better. We can only come to the conclusion that a total overhaul of our tourism planning is required urgently. When we compare the figures of foreign arrivals in neighboring countries, our figures look very insignificant. For example, Sri Lanka attracted 18 lakh foreign visitors in 2015, and Maldives around 15 lakh foreign visitors. To analyze the situation better, let's ask a few relevant questions. First, what have the countries and the tourism stakeholders there done more successfully than we have. To explain this point, let's just take the situation in Sri Lanka. After the civil war ended a few years ago, the Sri Lankan government identified a few beach locations and earmarked these sites for development of beach tourism. Private operators took up these sites on long lease, and I am told nearly 6,000 additional rooms will be ready for occupation by 2070. This is what I call building entrepreneurial ecosystems. The second question is, what is the preferred destination of European visitors? A large majority will opt for a beach holiday. The problem in Kerala is that there are not many quality beach resorts at the moment. The total number of rooms available in Kerala's beaches may not exceed 2,500 rooms, whereas Maldives has approximately 15,000 rooms. What we need to do is to plan to add at least 8,000 more rooms in Kerala's beach destinations to make any significant impact. This is where the TiE theme of building a great entrepreneurial ecosystem comes in, and this is what Sri Lanka has done. Professor Heisenberg describes the environment in which entrepreneurship tends to thrive. Drawing from examples around the world, he proposes that entrepreneurs are most successful when they have access to the human, financial and professional resources they need. They operate in an environment in which government policies encourage and safeguard entrepreneurs. This network is described as the entrepreneur ecosystem. In short, what this means is simply that a broad-minded, forward-looking initiative is required from the government level to create an atmosphere to encourage entrepreneurship and driving beach tourism. To get to the point, Kerala Tourism and the Center for Earth Science Studies in 2014 have jointly drawn up an excellent proposal to develop beach tourism in a big way in Kerala. If this proposal is taken and implemented, Kerala will soon see a boom. The tourism sector can grow only with the active and enlightened support of governments, both central and state, with favorable policies, and creating enabling environment for attracting investments in tourism infrastructure. Kerala is one of the leading tourism destinations in the country, and tourism has already become a significant contributor to the sustainable development of the state. Tourism contributes nearly 10% to the GDP of the state. The total revenue and foreign exchange earnings from tourism during the year 2014 was nearly 24,000 crore and foreign exchange of nearly 5,000 crore. Tourism creates employment opportunity to more than 25 lakh persons in the state. Now I come to the problem of the coastal regulation zone notification. Now this particular notification helps in conserving the beaches in a big way in India, but it imposes limitations to tourism growth in the state of Kerala, which heavily depends on beaches and backwaters as its main tourism products. Hence, there is an urgent need for reconsideration of the CRZ norms in the tourism potential areas in Kerala to facilitate controlled developments in tourism in a sustainable and responsible manner in the identified beach stretches of Kerala. The stringent regulatory guidelines of the CRZ notification 2011 have affected the development of tourism in Kerala badly. Kerala has a coastline of nearly 580 kilometers, and all along this coastline there are a number of quality beaches of high tourism potential. From Puvar Beach down in the south to Bekal Beach in the north, many of them are fast developing as destinations of highest quality with international resorts and hotels. But due to the stringent coastal regulation zone notification, only very little investments are coming up in these highly potential tourism areas. Now, if you look at table A, certain beach stretches in Kerala have been identified in the rural areas, from Puvar in the south to Bekal. And these have been classified according, and all these destinations have been given a particular area. If you look at Puvar, they propose a length of 3 kilometers, Anjatanga 2 kilometers. So in this way, nearly 13 beach sites have been identified, and these take up only about 30 kilometers of our beach, total beach length in Kerala, which is 580 kilometers. And they've also identified 7 beaches in the urban areas. This report proposes the urgently required modifications to CRZ notification for tourism promotion. Only 30 kilometers of beach have been proposed for modification in the no development zone. The proposed modifications also have been kept minimal. The no development zone identified stretches of 30 kilometers is proposed to limit the setback to 100 meters than the 200 meters as defined earlier.
No question? Okay, we'll carry on to the next session, that is the distribution of mementos.
Excuse me, I have a few questions to ask. You shortened everybody's time, so let me ask. So Niva, this question is for you. I mean, I did hear you talk about the elephants, and I've been to a couple of forums, and I do feel very bad when crackers go off near the elephants, and I've always thought, what are we doing to these lovely animals? What is one solution? One solution, and say, you know, if you do this, probably it will make the elephant's life much easier.
A write-off, I would say, if it was possible to ban the use of elephants in the festival culture, that would be the first thing to be done. And we should always, I mean, of course this is wishful thinking, it's not something which will happen right away. I'm a realist, though I say that. There are several other implications to that because of the economy that revolves around the elephant culture. Because keeping an elephant, sustaining an elephant in captivity in Kerala now costs somewhere between 30,000 to 50,000 rupees per month. So this is just one. We're talking about 500. Something wrong?
You want to pick that one?
So this is the kind of money we're talking about. So if you were to, and this money is generated from the festival industry, but this is not a justification to sustain elephants in captivity. We have to think about other elephant-friendly ways of raising this kind of money. And of course, this figure can change. Of course, it will all depend. I mean, because as we all know, money and the economy is something which is something very amorphous and which keeps changing. So ideally, that's the whole reason why I'm here, is to look to investigate other creative ways of keeping elephants in captivity, where we can strike a balance between entrepreneurship and the social side of it, and the welfare part of it, without violating elephant rights or human rights. Is it possible to run a good business? This is something I don't have answers, but I'm willing to experiment. I hope I've answered your question.
I have a question. Speaking to Nima, how did you get attracted by elephants? Oh, I have to get this back. I have two more.
Give him one mic so that he can continue.
And I don't think there are any spare mics.
No, there was actually.
You will have to. Okay, answer.
You use that one?
I've always been interested in animals and nature, and ever since I could remember, I've always been fascinated with the life in the wild, in the outdoors, and I love animals. So I had no clue what it would mean, but I've been always inspired by these documentaries that I used to watch on National Geographic. People like Jane Goodall, who used to work, she's the person who works with chimps. And people like that have been, like icons. So David Attenborough. So I've always wanted to have a life like that, but I really didn't know what was involved. The kind of trauma, the kind of pain, the kind of challenges that are part of this. But and elephants, it was just sort of like serendipitous. I started my career with an NGO called Zoo Outreach Organization in Coimbatore, somewhere around '95. And at that time, we were sort of like a channeling agency to an NGO in Kerala. They were organizing a Mahout training course for the Mahouts in Kerala, and they needed somebody, a Malayali who could speak Malayalam and English. And what was required, the funding agency wanted a project coordinator, somebody who could see things in a different light, as well as they wanted to document what was being discussed at the training. They wanted to document the whole knowledge system involved with elephant keeping. So they wanted it in English, Malayalam and Hindi. So it was sort of like tailor-made for me, the job, and so I just took the job. And that's how I got involved with elephants. And I had to do all these things hands-on because, if you had to ride, it's like, how do you ride an elephant? You just can't simply sit and, at least I felt comfortable to do it actually and then write about it. So I enlisted myself as a trainee. At that time, I had no clue that this would become a big sensational thing. I was just doing a job. I just wanted to get real hands-on experience about the actual experience of working with an elephant directly, to work how Mahout would work and what it would be like to be a Mahout. So that was how I got very closely associated with elephants, and that was the door opening. It's like a love story. Then I got involved with the issues, and then I sort of started freelancing. I had to get out because then once you get into issues like welfare and things like that, it becomes very controversial. So I had to give up my job, and I took up elephant welfare and conservation activities full time in Kerala. I moved to Kerala, and since '97, this is all I've been doing.
Are the number of captive elephants coming down in Kerala?
Sort of, yes. Yeah. But again, there are laws against always, against transport, against capture, against purchase, but they're all openly broken. They're all openly violated. So this number is still very, even now, it's like I often think you can even count the grains of sand on the beach, but it's always when you talk to somebody, there are approximately 500 odd elephants. These are things you can count. Why don't we just give real figures? So this is because there are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes, which cannot be discussed. So, but the number is going down, thankfully.
And that's about it.
I have a question. As the question is to Shoba, the organization, we call it RARE. So RARE is precious. And with reference to entrepreneurship in Kerala, you've been looking at dealing with Kerala perhaps the last 10-15 years. And during this time, do you see Kerala becoming more precious, rarer, and more attractive, or is there any dilution in that, the destination of Kerala?
I hope I'm allowed to be frank. No, this is not about Kerala per se, but usually the trend is we like to follow the herd. So if somebody has built something, we would by and large, like in Telugu they say inchu minchu, nearly we'll make something similar to that, thinking that this is a great business model. But what we tend to forget is the concept, the character and the soul of that particular product or the property is a very rare entity that is the sole responsibility of the owner. Now that cannot be replicated, which is why we call it rare, which is why it is entirely on the onus of the owners. And as long as that exists, whether it's an elephant farm, whether it's a 650-acre farmland somewhere where he's just got about four properties, or some coffee plantation in Tamil Nadu, or something in Kerala, which we market Surya Samudra, for instance, which initially the concept was very specific. Though now it is corporate, there's a corporate company behind it, but the whole ideology when it started, at least the soul existed, that the whole transportation of old Tarwad houses to make them into, so that ideology remained, and somehow or the other within the corporate setup they've been able to retain that thing. I mean, I'm not entirely, the owners do expand it, and we're trying to see how we can slowly ease away from it. It also is a matter of economics for us. We need a couple of large corporates to, otherwise we'll become an NGO again. But having said that, when you compare Kerala and other parts of the country, and my example, when I'm pitching Madhya Pradesh against Kerala, I feel Kerala in large pockets does retain some of its flavors. Some properties do have a very, very strong sense of their own self. They have a very strong sense of concept, which is again something which is hugely marketable. You know, which if you're exquisite and you're rare, you have a very private story to say. So I hope that answers your question.
Another question to Niba. Your aspiration as a conservator working with the elephants is to have Trichur tourism without the elephant. So that, to the tourism community, is it a thinkable or a visionable situation? I think when that happens, Kerala will have arrived.
Yes, not just to the tourism community, the general community as such, this is something unthinkable. Actually, when I was just walking to the dais, Swami was just telling me, I can't imagine, the festivals without elephants. I didn't know. I mean, I'm used to this, So I have my own responses to that. And you may remember at the KTM when we had the same discussion, it was a very strong point that came up. And, there was a tour operator who very strongly responded against that. Like you said, we're all used to certain set ways of thinking, and it's been so deeply ingrained in our psyche that changing, especially perceptions and very deep-rooted perceptions, cultural perceptions, is a very challenging thing. And that's why my work was, for a long time I was an activist at heart. I spent a lot of time fighting against such people, fighting the system, and I realized, that ultimately I would burn myself out, but that the system would go on. So I realized I had to change my way of thinking, I had to change my methodology, and I realized instead of attacking the negative, just set up some alternative positive models. And that is why I am so interested in the tourism industry, not just because the kind of economy that it can generate potentially, it's also the attitudinal change that it can bring about. It's the kind of trends that it can set, because the people in Kerala, especially the owner community, and there's a whole stakeholder community around the elephant culture. They are so used to, and Kerala, as you must know, has this certain kind of cultural arrogance. It's a way of thinking, that, especially with the elephant community, I've found this as a very strong emotion. They don't like to be corrected at all. They think that this is the best. They just assume that they're the best, the best answer to elephant keeping. They think that every elephant is delighted to be in Kerala. This is very strong, and it's not just the owners who think this way. It's the very educated community, even the academically educated, the veterinarian community, a large percentage of the officers in the forest department all think the same way. They think that this is the best thing that can ever happen to elephants, being at the festival and